Another Brazilian final. Another all-Brazilian final. As Botafogo and Atlético Mineiro are facing off. It was, look, it's reality. It's real, and there's nothing else that anyone can do about it right now. People are complaining. People, oh, you know, what can we do? What can be done in order to overtake the Brazilians? Well, the Brazilians are the team with the money. And the Brazilians are the teams that put the money. They invest. They reinvest. They waste it. They burn it. They do a lot of things with the money that they have. It doesn't bother them because Brazil is very different compared to, let's say, the United States. Well, no. I'll take that back because the United States is very self-sufficient from a football standpoint, although it does depend more for its growth than the Brasileirão depends on the outside. It's, yeah, saying two things at the same time, but MLS is very self-sustaining from that perspective. Now, are they willing to spend? No, they're not. They're not willing to spend. The Brasileirão, in that aspect, does spend a lot more. Liga MX, same thing. It's a league that spends, yeah, not as much, but not as much as the Brasileirão. And that's why the Brasileirão is the biggest league in America. It's the biggest league, no doubt about it. It's the most important league, it's the most competitive league, and it is the best league. And it's showing in Libertadores. And of course, have to wait for Thursday to find out if Corinthians ends up making it to the final. They have a very tough assignment as they ended up 2-2 at home, going to Buenos Aires and facing Racing, a Racing side that was very inspired in the first leg, and maybe it'll continue as things can go either way in that series. Atlético Mineiro was, and this is quick because obviously there's really no need to you know, you heard a lot about River, and the Argentine media failed the people that it covers for. In other words, its audience. The Argentine media failed big time to really tell the audience in Argentina what the problems are going on with River. But also the virtues that Atlético Mineiro have had. It's amazing to see the growth of Gabi Milito as a coach this year. I mean, it was a coach that, what was it, in April, May, people in Belo Horizonte were asking for his hand. And this is a great example of how a coach that you stick with him because there's a system in place that needs to be worked and reworked and overworked and ironed out and reassessed and reapplied and tweaked and turned until it finally is there and molded to the appropriate manner to the players that are basically playing with it. Because Atlético Mineiro showed tactical nous. Not only just Gabriel Milito showing it based on how he plays or how he wants his teams to play, but also how a team should play based on the situations and the circumstances. A lot of times you hear, oh, well, you know, the other team has to worry about us. Which is a very valid point if you're a good team, and Atlético Mineiro is that. But also knowing, well, why are we going to exert this and try and make our, let's be practical. Let's, because the onus isn't on us. And all these other factors that come into play, that's how Atlético Mineiro were intelligent enough to understand, okay, let's drop back and wait. Let's be patient. Let's not get too desperate. They're the ones that have to be the protagonists. We're ahead 3-0. They haven't scored in, well, at that point, now it's 6. They haven't scored, they've only scored 1 goal in 5 games. Let them come at us. We're fine. If we set up our structure fine, we should be good. So to see them change from that compared to the first game, it shows a lot of intelligence. It's shown a lot of growth with Gabi Milito as a coach. River, on the other end, we still see a lot of the shortcomings. They spent over $50 million in terms of reinforcements. Marcelo Gallardo at one point said, well, I can't have Masantuono and Diablito Echeverri come out and play these matches because they're not ready for it. But at the end of the day, the return leg comes and all of a sudden he ends up putting them in a situation where they have to do exactly that. They're players like Nacho Fernandez, players like Paulo Diaz, players like Miguel Angel Borja, which in Colombia, when he wasn't called up, I'm talking about Borja, there was a huge shit fit that many fans had. Oh, Borja's not getting... Look at him doing what... Now at River, they want him gone. Because he doesn't score. He's great in the area, or he has been great in the area, but when he's not great, then that's when the problem ends up coming. He's not a player that drops back and helps defend. He's not a player that's going to go in pressure. He's not a player that does a lot of things that need to be done within a system of play as a number 9. Obviously, if number 9 scores, and a lot of things can be forgiven. But when you don't score, what ends up happening? You end up your team basically ends up playing with 10. If you can't score, if you can't get the ball, bring it down, simple things like that. If you can't go and help defend, then what's left of you? You offer nothing. And that's what the problem with Borja. So basically, that's how things end up really breaking down when it comes to that tie between Atlético Mineiro and River. On the other end, I mean, it's one of those matches between Botafogo and Peñarol. Peñarol showed some huge balls. They came back and were able to win the return like 3-1. It was not enough by a long shot, as Botafogo get to their first Libertadores final ever with a 6-3 aggregate. First leg just killed it all. I mean, to really expect Peñarol, to expect anyone to come back from a 5-0 deficit ends up being a very unrealistic ask. But it's commendable to see that they were able to go out and pretty much die fighting. It was commendable, yeah. There was a lot of controversy, changing the stadium venue, leaving Peñarol Stadium and going to the Estadio Centenario. Everything that does occur, there's a lot of things, and that's for another video. And I think that this is where people started getting pissed off at what's going on in South American football, especially with the away fans going to Brazil, and a lot of the discomfort, for lack of a better term, or lack of a polite term, that many away fans have suffered at the hands of Brazilian police, at the hands of Brazilian fans over there. Of course, the return leg ends up being not that more amicable for Brazilian fans. So because some people just got fed up about treating one side better than the other. And again, it's something I'd rather delve into later on because it ends up taking away with what we're talking about here. So, of course, Peñarol does their thing. They end up winning 3-1, but it wasn't enough as Botafogo just sensational. Congratulations to Thiago Almada, who came over in a very unfavorable situation they had before at his former team in Major League Soccer. Comes to probably one of the best teams in Brazilian football, currently in first place in the Brasileirão, on their way to maybe winning or even competing to win the Brasileirão, as well as going and playing in a final of Libertadores and becoming the player that everyone thought he was going to become, and then some. And of course, now leaving in just a few months' time to head over to Europe. Jefferson Savarino, the same thing too, but Jefferson Savarino was playing at Atlético Mineiro, so it's interesting to see him from Atlético Mineiro to Botafogo, and he'll be facing his former team in the Libertadores final. So how does this happen? I'll give you a good example here. And I'm going to exclude continental play. I'll add what goes on in terms of the countries. Okay, Brazil, Argentina. The winner of the Copa do Brasil. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. The winner of Copa do Brasil is $20 million. 20 million. The winner of the Copa Argentina combined with the Copa de la Liga is somewhere along $180,000. Something along those lines. $180,000. The winner of the Copa de Brazil, $20 million. Keep that in mind. The winner of the CONCACAF Champions Cup is somewhere along the lines of $1.5 million. The winner of the Leagues Cup is $1 million. So tell me again, which is the biggest and best league? Gabriel Milito after the match yesterday in the press conference saying, hey, you know what? the Brasileirão, and this is not me hype because I don't do commentary for the Brasileirão anymore. I haven't done it for years, but I still follow it. I still understand it. I still watch it. I'm still intrigued by it. But do I work in it? No. Like I don't do Libertadores anymore, and I still am compelled, and I still follow it, and I'm still passionate about it. He goes and says, there's leagues in Europe that you have, okay, the Premier League, for example, has 4, 5, 6 top teams. Spain has 2, and of course maybe 3, 4 historically that are amongst the best. In Brazil, you have 10, 12. And you have teams that are constantly competing. If you look at the table in Brazilian football, in actuality, I mean, the top 10 are basically mathematically still with chances to win the Brasileirão. Mathematically, okay, that's different. But they're still within range if they go into a good run in this final stretch of the season. You might ask, why did I just go 1 to 10? Yeah, because there's a 21-point difference between, ironically, Botafogo and Atlético Mineiro, who's currently in 10th in the Brasileirão. And I mean, like I said, I very specifically said mathematical. That's why I wanted to say that. But I mean, if you look at it even further, it's a league that. So I mean, let me give you a prime example, and I'll have to go to last season. At one point, Botafogo, and this was back in June, July, if memory serves me right, Botafogo had maybe a 15, 16-point lead. They were in first place at that point. They ended up in 4th place. Botafogo ended up blowing the lead and then some. They just fell apart in the second half of the season. And Palmeiras ended up winning the Brasileirão by a significant amount there towards the end. So when I say this, I say it really keeping in mind how competitive it's been. Is it Palmeiras? Is it Flamengo? Yes, it's consistently Palmeiras, Flamengo. But you do have, I mean, there was one year that Internacional went into the final round of the Brasileirão with an opportunity to win the league for the first time in over 42 or 41 years. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They were able to only muster up a draw while Flamengo was able to win and leapfrogging over them. Also, keep in the mix that in the last few years that there have been recent champs, Atlético Mineiro, who ended up winning their first title in over 50 years. But you have those. I mean, you have every year you have a team that's in danger of being relegated. This year it was Fluminense. Currently, it's Corinthians. And last year was Cruzeiro, and Cruzeiro now further up in the table. Not only that, they end up going to the final of Copa Sudamericana. They're waiting to see who they end up playing between Racing and Corinthians. So there's that. There's all of that. Now, if there is, I mean, if there are certain things about Brazilian football that maybe you wouldn't be a big fan of, the constant play. I mean, the estaduales, the state tournaments, end up really burning out players. I mean, if you look at what Atlético Mineiro are going to go through, I'm just talking about Atlético Mineiro this year because they have a more extensive run. And mind you, Botafogo's not that far behind, so you can include them as well. But by the end of this year, they would have played already 71 matches. 71. Okay? So people that talk about how many matches teams in the Premier League play, not even close. 71 matches that Atlético Mineiro, if you include the Mineiro State Tournament, if you include Libertadores, if you include the Brasileirão, and if you include Copa do Brasil. So, and they only have a month of vacation. The tournament ends in December. They have 3 weeks off, Christmas off and everything. Maybe the first week of January, and then back you go as the state tournaments begin in January until April, May. So what do you do? I mean, that's Brazil, and Brazilians are Brazilian football, the Brasileirão in particular. Keep them. Oh, I forgot. Last year, Santos ends up being relegated. So keep that in mind. a historic team like Santos ends up getting relegated for the first time ever. So there's all those things that we have to start analyzing when it comes to Brazilian football. Why is it so much better? Yeah, the money helps a lot. Obviously, I'm not going to kid you with that. But also the constant competition. Of course, there's negatives to the constant competition because with the constant competition comes a desperation of losing. Because, yeah, okay, you win, you lose. But then when you start losing too much, then drastic measures are taken. Immediately sack the coach. There's coaches that last 3 matches, 5 matches, 7 matches. So you have that carousel of coaches that constantly are going through. And then the coaches, in order to maintain their job, what do they end up doing? Well, they end up kind of being very restrictive, very close to the vest, very conservative in terms of their play, in terms of all those types of things. And at the end of the day, they don't develop too much. Therefore, you end up having the coaching problems that Brazil are having right now. And the most successful coaches in Brazil, well, they happen to be Portuguese and Argentine. And ironically, you have a Portuguese coach and you have an Argentine coach in the Libertadores final coaching 2 Brazilian sides. That tells you everything. That tells you all you need to know when it comes to the Brasileirão. The good thing, I mean, look, the good, the bad, because it's not perfect. It's not a perfect league. But it's a league that is a little bit more functional compared to what is going on in Argentina right now, who just dropped relegation completely. Halfway through the season, well, not even halfway through, 2/3 of the way into the season, they end up dropping relegation and looking to promote 2 teams to make a 30-team league, make it a apertura clausura type of cup format for them, where they end up playing, you know, basically in two different groups, and then you have a playoff, and then you have a winner, and of course that's all to bolster TV ratings. In Brazil, hey, it's football. That's what it's about. That's how we do it. That's how we roll. And that's what they end up doing in Brazil. So, with all that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's basically it. That's basically all you can talk about, as it'll be Atlético Mineiro and Botafogo at the Estadio Monumental for now. For now. And waiting to see what happens as Cruzeiro and the winner of Racing and Corinthians will face off over in the city of Asunción for the Sudamericana final. Would it be an all-Brazilian final? I wouldn't be surprised the least bit. Although this last group, this last team, Corinthians, I don't have that much faith in. Although it would mean a lot of rating, or a lot of people watching, a lot of eyeballs at least, should Corinthians get to the final. Obviously, seeing if Memphis Depay can end up getting an international title. That'll be interesting to see. We'll see if it happens. We'll see if it does. We'll talk about it. We'll react. We'll do whatever we can. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. Let me see what you want to hear about. Let me see, because I have questions that I have to start answering in the next couple of weeks. I've gathered them up, and I'll start answering them starting in the next couple of days. So, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Let me know what you think. Like I said, all right? Lots of love. Ciao.